Capitol Hoops. Today we are at St. Mary's Ryken with new head coach Walt Booth. Walt, we appreciate you having us down here, and we appreciate you inviting us down to the school here. It's the first time I've ever been down here before, and it's cool to hear about the school that all the other schools say is so far away, but it's nice to come down here to get in front of the camera with you, and we look forward to getting to know you a little bit better.
Well, first of all, I definitely appreciate you coming down. It was a great opportunity. Hopefully this is not your last trip down to Ryken, but we definitely kind of out of the DMV, Beltway area. But I think it's a unique and special place here that, really I think, once people kind of see it and see what we have to offer, it kind of open a lot of eyes,
All right. Looks good. Well, first thing I want to ask you about, I want to get a little bit of background on yourself before we get to your new job here, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested to hear about. But first, give me a little bit of background on yourself, where you're from, where you went to high school, college, etc.
Well, I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland. I went to high school. I started at Gonzaga. Went there for my first 2 years. Unique story from there. When I transferred out, I played basketball, of course, and when I transferred out about 5'8", and I decided to transfer to the Heights. Over that summer, I grew like 5 inches, so I went kind of 5'8" to about 6'1", 6'2" over that summer, which kind of changed things for me on the basketball court. Of course, when I was at Gonzaga, I was behind some really talented guards, Earl Risby, Lorenzo Miles, Eric Price. So, it was a lot of competition. So going to Heights, I think I'm a point guard, 5'8". Going somewhere where I came in right after Jason Forte left, Joe Forte's younger brother, who's extremely talented and played at Brown. So, I transferred in after he left and thinking that was going to be an opportunity for me to get a chance to play. The coach there was Matt Moore, and he didn't guarantee me anything as far as, start spot or anything, but he just said, there's opportunities for you to get on the court, especially with Jason Forte leaving. And that's all I was looking for, and that's all I've ever really kind of looked for is just opportunity, and from there I felt like I'll make the most of it, but getting that growth spurt and going from 5'8" to, the 6'1", 6'2", then I don't have to play point, then I could play the 2 or the 3 and everything like that, and that kind of opened things up. I always think that God works things out for a reason, so it was definitely a reason that, he took me over to the Heights, and, it ended up working out great for me there. I went on from the Heights, ended up playing at North Carolina A&T, went there on an academic scholarship. I was preferred walk-on, so it was another opportunity there. I was, at that point, I was about 6'3", maybe 160, dripping wet. So, I really didn't have the strength and size, that a lot of D1s look for. I could always shoot the ball, I could always score it, and I was versatile, but I wasn't never the greatest athlete. So, a lot of the Division I coaches were looking for, guys, strong, physical guys type of things. And for me, I wasn't that guy off the, the warm-up lines. I didn't look the part, you know what I'm saying? So when I got the academic scholarship and I got the opportunity to be on the team, he told me I would have a chance to work for a scholarship that following year. And, that was kind of all I was looking for when I took a visit down there. I kind of fell in love with the Aggies and, Greensboro, and I felt like that was a place for me. So ended up playing there 4 years.
So you played for all 4 years?
Yeah, I played all 4 years.
Did you end up getting a basketball scholarship?
Actually, I stayed on the academics, so I never got the athletic scholarship. But, my first 2 years, like normal college kids, I had to work my way up. I started about 7 games my freshman year towards the end of the year.
Wow, as a walk-on?
Yeah, as a walk-on. So,
wow.
That was, and then my sophomore year, I started about 2 games. I had a decent game against Nebraska. I started that game and had about like 7 points, like 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So, as a sophomore, so I kind of had opportunities early in my career where I got on the court, but it was never really consistent, So, in between my sophomore and junior year, things weren't going as what I thought. I was hoping to get the scholarship. That wasn't going well. So I know I kind of hit that kind of break in the road where, I wasn't sure if I needed to transfer out. I really didn't feel like the coach was, me and the coach were on the same page for what he thought, what I thought it was coming into it.
Right.
But me getting an opportunity to get a scholarship and everything like that. Came back home that summer kind of discouraged, but really that was, one of the best summers of my life, because I went to play in the Kenner League, played with my old AAU team, Bethesda Magic, and we went in the Kenner League, and I got to play against the Georgetown guys and George Mason and Maryland, and really I got my confidence back, kind of like my swagger back, and I really just went all out that summer just in the weight room and getting shots up. And that next year, ended up working my way in the starting lineup. And from there, I never came out the starting lineup. Ended up leading the team in assists my junior senior year.
Wow. And you were like a true one at this point, or
I
you played?
was always been kind of like the X factor. That was kind of like a nickname in college I got. But I was just kind of just versatile, and they can kind of plug me wherever they needed me. My senior year, we had really two guards, point guard, shooting guard, that could really shoot the ball. So for me, I was kind of like that playmaker that, even though I wasn't a true one, I would be the one that they get the ball to, and I'd kind of get everybody set up and put in the right position. So, for me as a player, I was always just kind of like a gym rat. I was always kind of studying, watching other guys play. I told you I was never really athletic, so I had to use my other skills. I had to outthink people. You know what I'm saying? I had to do other things. I had to be crafty. You know what I'm saying? I had to outwork. One thing I always try to push myself to be in the best condition, the best shape. So, you might be able to beat me in the sprint, but I'm gonna beat you at the end of the marathon. I'm gonna be the first one. You know what I'm saying? So, and saying that, my mother said she always kind of see I was gonna be a coach. You know what I'm saying? For me, I was always thinking about playing professionally, so I didn't. I never thought about it. While I was playing, but. After playing, it made sense. It kind of all fell apart because I was always, watching film, watching different things, just trying to outthink my opponents and trying to find my creative advantage, my advantage out there on the court, and it all kind of carried over into coaching, you know what I'm saying? But at that time, I didn't put two and two together, you know what I'm saying? So, for me, I finished co-captain my senior year.
And you said you led the team in assists your junior, senior year.
Junior,
How about
year.
how about scoring? How many points was that?
I averaged about 8 points a game, so I was solid. We had some really good scores on my team. So, like I said, I was more the facilitator, playmaker. In high school, I averaged about 20 a game, 21 at the height. So, I was used to coming in and being the scorer. At the college, I kind of, whatever my team needed for us to win, that's why I kind of took that approach.
And how did you guys do in terms of wins and losses?
So going into college, before I got to A&T, they were 1-28. So they were like the worst team in Division I.
Wow.
Which kind of led me to kind of go there because I was like, there's an
Right.
opportunity for me to get on the court. It was a brand new coach, Jerry Eves, just got the job. He came from the pros at the time and just took the head coaching job. So I thought with all the change and all the new coach and everything like that, it was a chance for me to to find my way and get on the court. My dream was always to play Division I. So like most kids, so I was like, and with the academic scholarship, I'm make the most of it. And coming from the DMV where you're used to playing against some of the best, talent across the country, I wasn't backing down from anybody, and I felt like I could play with anybody in the country. So, when I got the opportunity, from there, we went from 1 in 2018. My first year, I think we won 3 games. I think my sophomore years we won about 5. My junior year we bumped it up to we won about 9 or 10 games, and then my senior year we finished in 3rd. We lost the semifinals to Florida A&M, who ended up winning it. But I just watched the progression from where we started out, from we were at the bottom of MEAC and probably the lowest team in Division I, where we worked up, and now we, my senior year we beat SMU. So we had some pretty decent wins, and just watching the transition of kind of starting from the bottom and just kind of working your way up, and we had a lot of young guys when I first got there, and we kind of all came up, with that mentality, kind of underdogs, and like we got to get from the bottom, so we all kind of bought into it, and of course as coach got there and longer he got there, he started recruiting and get better talent, and it just slowly but surely progressed over the time.
Who was the best player that you played against in college? Anyone that made it to the league?
Yeah, we played Chris Paul when he was at Wake Forest my freshman year. We played against Chris Paul, played against Danny Granger, that played with the Pacers. So we played against a couple guys that ended up being pros.
And all-stars.
Yeah,
at that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Jeff Pendergraft that played at Arizona State. Yeah, we played against him my senior year. So I'm sure I'm missing a couple of Eric Williams that was at Wake Forest. Justin Gray was on that team. We played in Miami. They had I forgot what the guard's name. They had a 6'3" guard ended up playing with the Clippers. That was pretty good. In the MEAC, we had Coppin State. We had Taiwan McKee. That he was with the Wizards with the Summer League for a couple years. He played overseas. So, we played against, quite a few talented in the non-conference, and there was a couple, pretty talented guys in the MEAC as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you finish at A&T, and what's your first job after school?
My first job is working with the Wizards. I was working in ticket sales. So I was working in ticket sales with the Washington Wizards, kind of like a part-time gig. I was hoping to work my way up in the Washington Wizards, at that point. It didn't pan out like I thought.
Yeah.
And I realized ticket sales wasn't for me. It was a really, it was an ugly year for the Wizards. I think Gilbert was hurt, and Karan was hurt, and Antoine. So guys like Roger Mason were getting a lot of playing times. And even though, I'm a fan favorite Roger, watching him grow up, he's not going to sell a lot of tickets, you know what I'm saying? So, so I that was my first job. And that same year is when I first got into coaching. I was helping out at Bullis High School with Bruce Kelly.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot that year. We ended up winning the IAC that year, and that was kind of my first taste. I was still kind of in player mode, so, I kind of got the piggyback and watch him and watch how he, practice plans and watch how he game planning and everything like that. And that really kind of gave me my first taste of what coaching looks like, and learning under somebody like Bruce Kelly, who's one of the best in the DMV area, was a great chance to kind of get used to what high level coaching looks like.
So you're at Bullis just for one season,
Yes,
is that right?
yes.
And then where did you head after that?
That was after that season, after the Wizard season. That's when I decided I want to kind of take it a little bit more serious as far as coaching. A friend of mine, Dan Engelstad, that played AAU with me, he went to Whitman, and he went to St. Mary's College and played there. And he told me his former head coach, Chris Harney, was looking for assistant coach, and so he connected me with him. I had an interview with him down at Waldorf, and so I planned on being down there and be assistant coach and working local high school. So that was kind of my plan of action after leaving the Wizards. So I had that kind of all set up. It wasn't until probably midway through the summer I got a call from A&T, and my former head coach, Jerry Eves, called me and said that he got an open assistant coach job at A&T at my alma mater. So when I got that call, a full-time assistant, at 23 to be a second assistant,
Wow.
I was like, this is a no-brainer. I have to go down there, So,
Right.
I had to, tell Coach Harney, and he understood completely. He was great with me about it. But, it kind of came out the blue, and he pretty much kind of said from my playing days, he kind of regretted not giving me the athletic scholarship, and me kind of fighting through, and me, me persevering, kind of all the ups and downs, that he kind of wanted to kind of give back, and give me an opportunity. He wanted to give one of his former players an opportunity to coach, and, my name was the one that came up. So that's why I say kind of God works things in mysterious ways, because you just never know. And, I felt like during my playing days, it was kind of ups and downs, but, if I don't fight through it, or I don't go through what I went through, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be down there and, be able to come back and coach, at 23, which, a lot of guys at that age don't get Division I jobs, and definitely not, able to recruit and be out on the road and everything like that, So, I was, able to do that for 4 years.
Wow, so you were down at A&T
for 4 years, yeah, from 2008 to 2012.
Okay.
Actually, my first recruit was from St. Mary's Ryken, R.J. Buck.
Really?
I recruited him under Coach Tallman. That was my first recruit. And actually, Coach Harney was the one that told me about him, because I was coming back in the DMV area, because I was going back to the area I know, and I know it's filled with talent. So
Right.
of course, this is one of the areas that I was like, I gotta recruit kids out of here, and especially from the WCAC, I knew, it's a lot of guys that are very talented that might not be the top 2-3 players on their team, but if they went to other places, they would probably be one of the best players, in their area. So knowing that and kind of having my expertise in that, I came back here. R.J. Buck was the first kid that I got committed. And he was from Ryken, and then I had another kid named Lawrence Smith from McNamara that came down that same recruiting class. So I ended up getting 4 recruits that first year. That was our primary recruiter on. And we had another kid named Austin Witter that another assistant coach, Scott Bowie, recruited out of New Jersey. But that class ended up winning the MEAC championship their senior year after we left. So, I guess I knew I was doing something right with that class. And I knew that was going to be a special class. Another kid named Adrian Powell out of Hickory, North Carolina. And
who were some of the other kids from the DMV that you recruited in the 4 years that you were there?
Jeremy Underwood out of Coolidge High School. He played for Von Jones. Really could shoot the ball. Another kid named Jordan Herrera from BCC and going to JUCO.
So he had a brother, right? Didn't he? Justin Herrera.
I'm not sure if he had a brother, but Jordan 6'6" wing. So those are, and then I recruited Justin Black from DeMatha, but Justin ended up going to Morgan State. So those are my guys that I recruited out of the the DC area. And they all it's all great to see them being successful now, all graduated and taking care of business. So it's funny to watch that evolution, especially with me being so young. When I started recruiting them, a lot of those guys are 27, 28. I went up to A&T homecoming a couple weeks ago, and we got to reconnect with them and everything like that. So I mean, like I said, it's just funny how quick time flies. But like I said, I couldn't be more thankful, for Eves giving me the opportunity, like I said, at 23, to be able to be a Division I assistant coach. I learned so much, It kind of gave me, a greater understanding of what it takes, to be successful. And watching different, we played a lot of pros, across the board while I was there, and watching different college coaches and what they're doing and game planning and scouting, It just added to, to help me be the coach I am today. So
you said you guys won the championship the year after you left, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So
how did you guys fare while you were there?
We were always 500. We were about 500. We struggles in the tournament. I think we finished as high as third 1 year. My last season, I think we finished in seventh. But we can never get over the hump in the tournament, which ended up being the kind of downfall for why they ended up letting Coach Eves go.
So it was a new regime that won the championship in their first year.
The year after we were let go. New coach came in, but the one thing about it, those same kids that my first recruit class, they were all seniors that year. I went back to Norfolk to watch the championship game, and they beat Morgan State. And actually, Justin Black was playing Morgan State, so it was funny to watch. A lot of guys I recruit on both, on both sides, playing against each other for a championship. And A&T ended up winning it, and that was one of the, just for them, I just couldn't be, happier for them, because I know they've been through a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of people questioned them, and a lot of people, kind of wrote them off. But I told them, when I recruited them, that once we got that team, that group together, I was like, man, y'all gonna win a MEAC championship by the time it's all said and done. And when I went up there to Norfolk after the game, they all told me, like, we ain't forget, you the one that said it first, So I was, it was just a super proud moment for me. It's weird being on the other side and being on the other side of the rope and, dapping them up and not being out there with them. But, I couldn't have been happier for them. And, to this day, they still got their rings and walk around and stuff like that. I mean, they're champions, And one thing great about that first recruiting class, they all graduated, and that's another great thing that I, more than just a championship, seeing them all graduate and be college graduates, knowing that, you had a part of that, with recruiting them and bringing them in and, being a mentor to those guys, stuff like that. Those are some of the things that being able to impact, the youth, impact, young men and stuff like that. That's part of the reason why coaching is just so important to me, more than just winning games or X and O's and stuff like that. Really, be able to
beyond the X's.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's why we're here. But being a part of that, young people's lives and being able to help them in a positive direction. That's why I'll do this until the death of me. So.
So your 4-year kind of tenure at A&T comes to an end. What's next?
I was kind of like rock bottom for a second.
Really?
Just because, I was trying to, I thought at that point that, I was just going to get on with another Division I school and, kind of bounce back. And I had a couple of opportunities that, kind of fell through. So, now I'm 27. Now I'm thinking, like, what's the next step? So I come back home to D.C. I come back home to D.C. and I ended up coaching at Tacoma Academy with Harvey Powell. That was a good opportunity for me. I met Evan Baker. He was coaching with us as well. So that was Harvey just got the job there. Harvey now coaches with Mid-Atlantic Select. So we coached together for the year. It was kind of a year for me to try to figure out what was the kind of next step for me.
Are you doing anything besides coaching?
Yeah, I'm doing personal training. So, I'm doing personal training, just trying to make, ends meet. But I'm still trying to find, figure out, what's the next move. From there, I ended up going on to work at Bowie High School. And that's when I started Bowie in that fall with Cedric Holbrook, and I coached along with him.
So you're working at the school as well?
I'm working at the school as well.
Doing what?
I work in the special ed department. Okay. So I work in the special ed department, work in the school. So it was a chance for me to kind of stay in the school system and still be able to, coach and, still do training on the side. So really right now I'm just kind of hustling and trying to work my way back up. I've known Cedric probably since my first year coaching at A&T. I came back and watched him work out and met him, and Chris Lawson was there at the time. So when he opened up the opportunity, I said, we've kind of built a relationship, and I was like, there's a chance for me to kind of get out there and help and still coach and, still trying to figure out, kind of what's my next step and kind of, work my way up. At that same time, I started with the DC Blue Devils. We started back up under Keith Williams, and it got me a chance to coach in the 17 and under that summer. That summer going from Tacoma Academy to Bowie.
And what year was this?
That would have to be 2013. Okay. Yeah, that summer. So that was the first year we brought the Blue Devils back. I coached the 17s. Had a couple really talented kids. Bradley Jackson was at Gonzaga. Jamal Greenwood, that's at St. Rose, that played at Bullis. Cedric McFadden, who's up at Concordia. Ramon Hines, who's a walk-on at Georgetown, Trey Thomas, who plays at Coppin State. So I had a great group. It was a chance for me to be a head coach for the first time with that group. So that's why A&T, AAU was kind of a great opportunity for me to kind of get kind of build some of the things I've learned from A&T and from Bullis and from Tacoma, and try to build my own style and form my own plans and everything like that.
How did that go for you? Were you happy with it?
Yeah, I was really happy with it. We of course first year AAU program, we had to I couldn't get the superstars that I wanted to, but I got a great group of hard-working young men, and they kind of overachieved that whole spring and summer, and we were able to beat and compete with a lot of really talented teams, a lot of high-name teams, a lot of sponsorship teams. So it was a chance for me to kind of really kind of see who I was as a head coach. You can kind of build my style. Started having practice plans and game planning and everything like that. And AAU is a different animal because you got to play 4 or 5 games over a weekend, and you don't know who you're going to play. So for me, it was a different kind of test, what I'm saying? And I had to learn a lot, through each weekend, through each session and everything like that. So I grew a lot over that spring and summer. So by the time I got back to Bowie, I coached their fall league team. So that got me in the DMV Elite. So that gave me a chance to, again, kind of get more head coaching experience under my belt. And then, I was at Bowie for 2 years. That first year, we had Jared Gray and DeJuan Smith. Jared ended up going to Livingston. DeJuan Smith ends up playing at Albright. DeJuan's having a really great career. They both were really talented at Bowie that year. Both averaged about 18 points a game. We had some really good wins that year. That following summer, we went to play in the DeMatha Summer League, and I was able to coach that, and we ended up going 9-1 in that DeMatha Summer League. Had some really good wins. First game of the season, we beat Gonzaga. Meanwhile, I think they were missing like 2 kids. I think Likes and Crawford didn't play, but they still had guys like Sam Miller there and Nigel Stewart. So they still had some really talented players, and especially for some school like public school like Bowie, for us to go up there the first game is, Summer League to play Gonzaga, and for us to beat them, it was kind of like an eye opener for a lot of people that, think that the opportunity was there. And for me, that was kind of, a great opportunity for me to just, get out there and show that I can, coach guys up and stuff like that, and we can play against some of
And
the
you're
best.
going against one of your alma maters
Exactly.
too, which
So that was a
kind
little
of sweet.
Exactly. That was definitely a good. Actually, I was coaching against Juan Hill, who coached at Gonzaga, and he was my freshman coach at Gonzaga.
Oh, wow.
So it was so we kind of laughed and joked after the game and stuff like that. And of course it's summer league, but like I said, it was just kind of funny, that he coached me at Gonzaga as a freshman, and now we're coaching against each other in summer league action. So that was neat for me. Like I said, that group went 9-1. We had a lot of young guys on that team. Quentin Drayton didn't transfer in until the end of that fall. So I mean, we didn't even have him at that point. So we had a lot of guys. Christian Bryan, Jalen Robinson was a sophomore. We had Gus Stone that plays at PG Community College. So we had a lot of guys that were kind of unknowns, and for them to get that experience playing against AJ Barnes as at Concordia. For them to get that experience of playing against the best teams in the DMV, and for us to go 9-1, and I think we end up losing Gonzaga in the playoffs that summer in a tight fought game. But it was a really good test for us to kind of build that chemistry, build that camaraderie, and kind of grow up as a unit. And that second year I was at Bowie. The first game of the season we played St. John's, and at that time, exactly. That time, I think you were there at that game, and they had that was Anthony Cowman's junior year and Jeff Downs' junior year. DeJuan actually was hurt that game, so he didn't play. But Kai Sykes, and I mean that was really that group that next year to win the WCAC championship, and for us, kind of.
Where was that game at again?
It was at Flowers, and it was at the DMV Elite like showcase and everything. So, like I said, that was a big game for us. And from that experience going through the summer league at the Mather, our guys have already kind of built the confidence that they can play against anybody, in the area. And for us to get that win in that game, in that type of environment, was huge for us, what I'm saying? Just because, we knew how talented and how special, that team was with, Anthony now at Maryland and, Jeff at Rhode Island. I mean, we knew those were very talented players. We knew that was a great team. We know, we playing one of the better coaches with Sean McAloon in the area. So, we knew going into it that, we had to come in there and had to kind of, put it all on the table and, have to play one of our best games. So for us to be able to accomplish that, the first game of the season was, super impressive. We had a really good season that year. We ended up being Roosevelt when Roosevelt was probably the favorite to win, the whole 4A at that point. We ended up losing to Wise that very next game.
This is in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah. We ended up losing to Wise that very next game. And I think Wise ended up losing to Duval. To go to states, exactly, yeah. So, and like I said, I think that Rose team was probably the favorite to win it all that year, and what I'm saying. So us beating them at their place, was another one of those crazy games that I always remember just because it was just a hard fought game. Both teams laid it all out there, and like I said, that team throughout the year, we didn't have many seniors on the team. We only had 2 seniors with Christian Bryan and. Eugene were only 2 seniors, and so we knew we were young and stuff like that. But that group was just put a lot of work in. We were kind of fighters, and we were able to overachieve that whole year. So that was my last year at Bowie, and at that point I started up. Well, actually that second year at Bowie. I go with the Blue Devils my second year, and I'm with Devin Williams, and we coach the 1600 DC Blue Devils team with Jeff Dowden and Markel Fultz. So that was my opportunity to kind of, be around some really high-level talent, with that 1600 team. And that team was kind of like the same team that I kind of got used to. We weren't a sponsor team at that time, but we knew at that point, Jeff Dowd was really talented. Markel was really talented. We had another kid, Brandon Fields. We had another big Jack that ended up going to Navy. So, I mean, we had a lot of kids that were D1, D2 kids. AJ Banks that just went to A&T. So, we knew the team was filled with a lot of very talented kids. Nobody knew how good Markel was, but we knew he was coming off that JV year at the Mathers, so we knew He was probably one of the most underrated players and people that a lot of people didn't know about, but we knew just from workouts and practices and scrimmages that like he was special and was, had a lot of, his best years in front of him. And Jeff Dowden was just coming off a year at St. John's where he didn't play much because he played a bunch, like 5 or 6 seniors at the point with James Palmer and guys like that. But he was another guy that was extremely motivated, hungry, and had a lot to prove. So, coaching that group, at that point, I went back to assistant coach with Devin Williams. That's at Gonzaga, and that was a good chance for me to kind of sit back and, watch and learn some more, and see, kind of be more hands-on with player development and everything like that. But we had a great summer that year, and that was my last summer with the DC Blue Devils. That next summer after Bowie, that's when I started the district basketball club with Devin Williams, and from there. We've kind of watched the AAU for 2 years, working with the Blue Devils, and at that point we felt like we could start our own program and, kind of run it the way we see fit. We learned a lot from, working with Keith Williams and everything like that, and, the Blue Devils was a great opportunity, and we just felt like we wanted to kind of go in our own direction and, start our own program and take some of the things that we learned along the way and, build it up from scratch, in saying that with the district, we never knew what was going to, come with it,
In terms of what?
As far as how far we can go with the AAU,
Right.
Started as just kind of a plan and a kind of idea, and, from there, we were able to get some great guys around us. Austin Kelly, that's working with Hoop Group, he was around from the beginning at Shalape. Those guys were kind of there from the start of it and, kind of watched us kind of go from just planning it out and thinking it out to really kind of putting in formation and building something that, now we're in year 3 of it and been able to produce about 14 Division I guys, over the 3-year span. It's been really impressive, and really something that I'm extremely proud of, you know what I'm saying?
Tell me about starting your own AAU program. Like how do you go about doing that? How do you get, how does that happen? How do you start an AAU program? What needs to be done in order to do that?
Well, starting an AAU program, I mean, I use that loosely because anybody can start an AAU program. Like, one thing that both me and Devin have is you got to have a kind of credibility to kind of, you need talent. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, with any team, especially an AAU team, you got to find talent. You got to have players. There's only so much coaching you can do, but when you're playing 4, 5, 6 games in a weekend, like, X and O's is not going to be enough. You know what I'm saying? You got to have guys that can, make plays and that can score the ball, that can defend and, got size and everything like that. So, coming from the Blue Devils, coming from, Devin being with, Gonzaga, me being in, me coaching at A&T and me coaching public schools, and so we had quite a bit of network and database of coaches and people that trusted us and people that knew that we knew what we were doing, that they can we were well respected in the area and everything like that. So in saying that, we were able to reach out to different coaches, reach out to different players about coming and joining our program. That's always a hard thing to do, especially if you're not established, is really, and, same thing we had to do with the Blue Devils, you really kind of have to show them what you're capable of doing as far as, skill work, practice plans, game planning, and everything like that. Because, coming from the DMV, everybody can talk. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of great, a lot of people that talk a lot. You know what I'm saying? And talk a good game. So, I always take pride in being able to back it up. You know what I'm saying? And be able to, just not talking, but I really got to show it by example. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that, with us starting the district, we had to prove what we could do. We had to prove what we were capable of. And at year 1. We had a couple of guys that came over from the Blue Devils, and then we had a couple of other guys that, we knew from our time, either high school, AJ Barnes that came over from Bowie, he came and played with us, and, we had a couple of other guys that we, coached against or, coached before that, decided to come and play with us as well. So, in saying that, we were able to recruit, some decent pieces that year 1, and, Kyle Copeland, Tajay Byers that played at BCC, Ryan Gomes that's out of Mount St. Mary's, he came over mid-year. Tristan Matapis, that was one of the best shooters in the area at that point. Jake Kuhn, that was At that point, transferring over to Goretti. He came over. Jamal Wright, that was a very talented point guard that, was at Bullis, and I'm going to Riverdale Baptist as, played at High Point. They all joined us year one on the 17s. And the 16s, I had guys like Mark Soleil, that played at St. Stephen St. Agnes, that's at High Point as well. Manuel Hilton, that now at San Diego, that played at St. John's. Charles Snowden, that's playing football now at UVA, but was a really talented basketball player, and actually that was my cousin. Tyler Williams, that's at Howard, that he was at North Point, and I think he finished at National Christian, and he's playing at Howard now. Donald Carey, that's out Mount St. Mary's, that played at Douglas. We had a really talented group, kind of underrated kids that, one thing about the DMV is a lot of kids that can play, A lot of those kids don't always get the exposure they need, and that's sometimes why their recruiting is not always what it could possibly be. Other kids, need the skill work, need the time in the gym, needs the extra reps, So with us starting the AAU program, we were kind of able to find, that niche where we can help kids that might need the exposure, might need to be on the platform to get in front of college coaches and get the right eyes on them, and then also give them the skill work and, the extra reps to help them get to the, work on the things they need to kind of improve and, get ready for that next high school year and to kind of get ready for that, college basketball. So,
How do you, if you're an unaffiliated AAU team, how do you go about creating a schedule? How do you go about creating opportunity for these kids to get showcased and just kind of putting together like a season?
Yeah, definitely you got to do your research, because there's so many tournaments going on. You got to do your research and find out, which are the best ones, which are the best fits. I think things like Hoop Group, they do a great job for as far as nines, shoe sponsored programs, they always have college coaches there. Elevate Hoops, we met Rob Ingerman and them. They do a great job as well as finding, the best next of the best, program. So finding different tournaments like that where you can still get, a lot of exposure. Even if you're not a sponsored team, we had to find places like that, and then you got to win. That's the other, secret ingredient. I mean, you can go at all these tournaments and play, but if you're losing Friday night, or if you don't get into the Sundays or late Saturday afternoons, a lot of those college coaches, if you don't have a name already, they might not see you. One thing because I was, a college coach before, I already had some contacts, so that helped us. Devin Williams, as far as being from Gonzaga, he'd done some Team USA stuff, so he had contacts as well. So we were able to kind of reach out to people that we already know, college coaches, that kind of helped, kind of build, that buzz around our guys. Right. We had to do a lot of extra stuff like social media, blast it heavy on Twitter and Instagram, kind of promote our kids, and pretty much for our ideas, we've always just tried to outwork the competition. Guys like Shalape that, did a lot of our media. He was able to put, highlights, to put films out and everything like that to kind of create a buzz and everything like so. It was a lot of behind the scenes work, a lot of early work that we did to kind of create a buzz and kind of get our name out there and kind of build a brand and kind of build a culture, So, and doing that, we were able to kind of, pass up a lot of first year programs and everything like that, or even programs that mom and pops have been around for a while, just because, I felt like we just outworked them. I mean, I know almost to a fault, I'd be on the phone almost every night with Devin or Shalabi and them talking about, idea or a plan of action or, what we can do this week or who we can go watch to play and stuff like that. So, for us, outside of our normal 9-to-5s or normal high school coaching, we're thinking of game plan and brainstorming different ideas to kind of get our name out there or kind of build a buzz or kind of, create our brand, you know what I'm saying? And I think, that was kind of one of our secrets to success, just keep working.
I think it's fair to say that every AAU organization would like to be sponsored by one of the big shoe companies. How do you go about getting there?
We're still trying to figure that out. For us, for this area, it's already a lot of sponsorship teams.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing that you always kind of fight an uphill battle, what I'm saying? Because, the sponsorship teams that are already in the area are really very good, what I'm saying? Takeover, Premier, they all do well nationally. So, in saying that, you kind of fight, against guys that have already kind of established themselves, in their own shoe circuits and their own shoe companies and across the country, For us, I've gotten to the point where I'm not so much concerned about that.
Really?
Of course, I wouldn't say we would turn down the right sponsorship, but at the same time, we've proven that we can get kids to college without it. And so I don't want to lose who we are, our identity of helping, kind of the guys that are underrated, trying to fight, trying to get a sponsorship, what I'm saying? I want to make sure that if we do get a sponsorship that we can still do it our way, still do it in a way I feel like is, much needed for this area of helping, again, the guys that are under the radar that, don't got the exposure from their high school programs or, or need more exposure, what I'm saying? Helping those guys, get to that next level, what I'm saying? And that's something that, we've been able to do. And like I said, for the parents that have been through it, what I'm saying? Like, without a program like the district, I don't know where those kids end up, what I'm saying? But I'm sure they don't end up at the, some of the levels that they've been able to, what I'm saying? Even a kid like Curtis Holland, what I'm saying? Because of just exposure. I mean, he was always talented, and he's been great for Will, at Southern. I mean, he's, I'm not saying we put talent in him because that's something that he's been had, but at the same time, the exposure and for people to kind of build a buzz around him and for people to see him play against some of the high level teams, it gave him a chance to showcase what he could do against some of the best players in the country, what I'm saying? And, things like that, can now, college coaches can now see where, if Curtis plays on a sponsorship team, maybe gets lost in the shuffle. Yeah. What I'm saying? Just because of numbers game and, you're playing behind so many talented guards, what I'm saying? Maybe maybe you're lost and maybe college coaches can't see that, what I'm saying? But because of, he can't play with our program, it was a chance for him to kind of showcase his athletic ability, his skill, and everything like that, so.
So you've been with the district now. You guys just finished your
Third year.
And Bowie was, what did you do last season basketball was?
I was at St. Mary's College last year with Chris Harney. So it was kind of like coming full circle, from me going my year after, getting out of college, me supposed to be going there to, now becoming a full-time assistant coach there.
So you were at St. Mary's just for 1 year?
For 1 year, exactly, yeah.
And I think some of the biggest news in DMV basketball is that you were recently hired here at St. Mary's Ryken, which is where this conversation is going to go now.
Yeah,
WCAC, no small feat to be a coach in the WCAC.
Not at all.
Talk about getting the job at Ryken.
It really wouldn't have happened if I didn't coach that year at St. Mary's College. Chris Harney is, he's established himself as one of the best Division III coaches in the country, and he's he's very well respected around here. He's almost like the mayor around here. So he has a lot of connections with St. Mary's Ryken. I was kind of thrown off guard when I didn't know Coach Mack was going to IMG, and then Pat quickly took the St. John's job. So my goal's always been to kind of be a head coach in the private school. I've always kind of looked at WCAC, as everybody knows, as one of the best conferences. Best conferences in the country. So my goal was always to be, if I get a head coach job in the WCAC, that would be perfect. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of my goal. So, talking on the phone after Pat got, actually after Sean left, kind of just brainstorming with a couple of guys. They were like, well, what if this happens? Well, if this happens, you can go back to high school. And I was like, well, I always thought if the right job opened up, no question. That would be my, that would be a dream of mine. To go to the right private school and have, head coach and run my own program. So when Pat left Ryken, I immediately got like 3 or 4 phone calls like, this is it, and so I reached out to Coach Harney, And I told him, that I wouldn't just take any job, leave, what he done with me, with helping me with St. Mary College, and I've had a great year there. But for the right job, and I felt like this was the perfect job for me, So, being able to get inside for an interview, I was pretty much prepared, because this is something I've been living, this is something I've been working towards, So when I came in here, I met with the principal and the president and the AD, pretty much I was ready for any question they could throw at me because, this is something I've been working towards, for the last 10 years, and various experience from college to high school, so,
What about the fact that you've never coached high school, been a head coach of high school, though? Do you think that, was detrimental to your chances? I mean, obviously it wasn't.
I think, I think that's something that, probably was a question mark on, on my resume, and something that was probably maybe made people hesitate,
Right.
because I haven't been a high school head coach, But it's one of those things where you can never get experience doing something if you you never got an opportunity. What I'm saying? So for me, I know I have to. I know a lot of people probably question mark. Am I ready for the opportunity and everything like that? Because I haven't been a high school head coach. But at the same time, through all my experience of what I've been through, I I don't think you can find anybody more ready for this opportunity than myself. So. I'm really confident in what I do because I know there's not many guys that have sacrificed and put as much into it as I have, what I'm saying? So,
How did you find out that you got the job, and how many interviews did you come to?
I just had one in-person interview, and like I said, I met with the whole administration during my interview. It was about an hour long, so had one in-person interview. I talked to the AD over the phone for about 30, 35 minutes, kind of introduced myself, and so that was kind of like I guess that was a partial interview as well. I found out probably a week after my interview that I got a job, and I was actually working summer camp in Montgomery County, and when I got the
phone call?
yeah, I got the phone.
Like...
I got the phone call, and I walked out. I was hoping for that phone call, and I was kind of waiting for that phone call. But like I said, I've been in that position so many times as far as interviewing for different jobs and stuff like that. So I didn't want to get myself too excited, or I kind of want to stay even keel because I've been on that other side of that phone call, and they say no thank you, or we're going a different direction. So, when I got that phone call, I stopped breathing for a second and I walked outside, and when he told me that, I got the job, I told him it was almost like when Will Smith was in Pursuit of Happiness, I always walked outside, I cried a couple tears of joy, what I'm saying, just because, there's a lot I put into it as far as sacrifices, as far as, ups and downs, and I tell kids a lot of times, what I'm saying, you gotta fight for your dreams, what I'm saying, and that's, for me, leaving the A&T situation and kind of, like I said, kind of hitting rock bottom just as far as finding a job and starting back from scratch, it was a couple times I've sat back and, had to like look at myself and like, do you still want to keep pursuing this, or you want to just find a regular 9 to 5 and just coach on the side or whatever, what I'm saying, but, I have some unbelievable parents. I got some unbelievable people in my corner that, they never allowed me to quit, what I'm saying. They never stopped believing in me, what I'm saying. And, for that, I don't know where I would be, what I'm saying, if it wasn't for them throughout, what I'm saying, just always being in my corner, what I'm saying. And, that kind of helped me keep pushing through the dark times and, the times where it was rough or I'm struggling or whatever, what I'm saying. It just helped me to keep fighting, what I'm saying. And, I kind of live by this of focus, fight, and faith, and you have a focus, you have a goal, what I'm saying. I knew my goal was to be a head coach at the private school level, you got to work towards it. You got to do the little things, do the AAU, help be assistant coach at high schools, do, a whole bunch of different hoops you got to go through, what I'm saying. And then you got to have faith, you got to believe, what I'm saying. And throughout this process, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to rock you, what I'm saying. But you can't, you can't lose your faith in it, what I'm saying. And, to get that call, to get that phone call, and to get this job. You know what I'm saying? I just, I look back and I just think about that whole journey to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? And if I try to cut a corner or try to cheat it, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I get to this point. You know what I'm saying? But just because just kind of stay persevering through. You know what I'm saying? An opportunity like this was able to present itself.
So after you get hired, what is your first priority from like an operational standpoint? Is it retaining players that are on the roster? Is it recruiting new kids? Is it getting the right coaching staff? Like, what's the one thing where you're like, I got to get this done now?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for me at that point was trying to retain the people that are already here. There's a lot of talented kids that were already in the building. So before I could look for outward or look for recruiting outward, I first find out what was here and like could we keep some of these talented kids in the building. And, during the process, it was a quick coaching change. So I heard the rumors that certain guys were already kind of planning on leaving out. So as soon as I got the job, as soon as I knew I got the job for sure, I was trying to call and get on the phone and talk to parents and kids and try to see if we can keep them at RIKEN. At that point, I think that the day I signed the contract, which was the next day after I got the phone call, we had a meeting set up where I talked to, all the current parents and, all the incoming freshmen, you know what I'm saying? So we set up kind of an interview, an introductional press conference, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So that was like the next day, and it wasn't but like two varsity guys that were there. You know what I'm saying? Varsity guys, players, and parents that were there. So there's a lot of young kids there. So
how many kids played on varsity last year that didn't graduate? Do you know?
I think it was 7 kids. Yeah, 7 kids. Okay. Yeah. Once I saw the numbers of, how many guys weren't there, right. It was kind of like, brought some question marks, like how many people are still on board, to be here. Yeah. So we ended up losing, I think, all in all, we had a big kid that was overseas that right. already left before right. the coaching change. Right. He already went back. So he was one, and then we ended up losing 3 kids in total that left in between the coaching change. So by the time I got the job, they had already decided they were going elsewhere. And knowing that, I knew that, we had a couple of holes that were missing, that we were going to have to figure it out, throughout this, through the rest of the summer. Yeah. So this is about July. So we were able to get a couple workouts in July. They missed summer league because of the coaching change. So
what happened with that? I know you guys were slated to play in the DeMathis.
Yeah, so I think they played like the first 2 games, but then the coaching changed. They really had nobody to cover, I guess, coaching the summer league. So
you couldn't have slid in there, or?
Well, I didn't have a job by the time they decided to pull out. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I got the job, it was only like 2 weeks left in the summer league, and they had already forfeited, the summer league. So, that was kind of unfortunate especially for the kids more than myself, just because they weren't able to, play out the whole summer league. So, like I said, it was kind of, a rocky time just because there was so much uncertainty, and, we knew guys were leaving and all these rumors about who was staying, who was going, and everything like that. So, at that point, I have to kind of introduce myself and kind of let them know, my philosophy, who I was, and, what I was looking to do for, the present and future of the RIKEN, you know what I'm saying, and kind of get people on board and tell them, show them my vision, you know what I'm saying, which, I was able to talk to enough of the guys and, parents and kids and, kind of let them know what I was about. Like for instance, I told you, everybody talks a good game. So for me, it was a lot of them was getting them in the gym and showing them, what I'm about, showing them a workout, showing them how, skill work, player development, those type of things that I've been doing for a while, you know what I'm saying, and really kind of showing them, more than just telling them, you know what I'm saying, what I can do and how I can help and how I can help the kids get better, you know what I'm saying.
So how did you fill your roster out?
So we were able to keep, like I said, we lost a few kids. Mike Sumner was a kid that was transferring from Oxon Hill, that was kind of like on the fence, after the coaching change. You know, the mother said she waited about a week and kind of just watched from the outside and, you know, kind of saw, she followed me on Twitter and everything like that, and not necessarily followed, but just kind of looked at some of the things I posted, some of the things I talked about, some of the things I was about, and kind of read up and asked about different people. And she came to me about a week later after we started workouts and said that, you know, she liked what she seen, liked what she heard, and stuff like that. So, and Mike, you know, is wanting to come to RIKEN, you know, for the academics more than basketball. So, you know, kind of seeing to get on the same page, and kind of we had to talk with Mike's mother and father and Mike himself, you know what I'm saying, and kind of told him, you know, my vision of what we're trying to do here. So I was able to keep, you know, him on board, which was huge. That was huge. Exactly. And then one thing I know that RIKEN's always been able to do is get kids from overseas, you know.
Why is that?
Well, they have a great Cheryl Shevchuk that works the international director program. She's a program director for the international department. She does an excellent job with, you know, finding, you know, dealing with I-20s, you know, dealing with host parents and everything like that. Just the location of RIKEN, you know, we have the great community that's able to help with host parents and everything. So it's something they've done over the years. You know, they want to kind of make it open to everybody, give, you know, different students across the world. So, you know, that's something they're doing, just not just for basketball, just period. You know, but at the same time, they're able to come to right, you know, student athletes as well. You know, so I was able to get. Find a big kid from Turkey, 6'8", kid, Alperen Kurznaz, that's here now. He's a senior. And then a junior, Louis Tang, who's from Taiwan. And they both transferred in. They both transferred in at the end of the, end of August. They transferred in and came here. And
they're both part of that international program?
Exactly, yeah. They're both here. So Louis is a junior and Alperen is a senior.
And how big is Louis?
Louis 6'4", guard, wing guard, and then Alperen is a 6'8".
Is he like a real post player, or is he a typical kind of 6'8" European guy who plays on the perimeter?
He's 6'8", 215, so, I mean, he's inside, outside. Like, he's super skilled, so, of course, like most international players, they learn to play 5 out, and, you know, he can dribble, pass, and shoot. So, you know, that's one thing that he can do. But at times I gotta tell him, you are 6'8", 215, so let's use that to our advantage, you know. So I mean, he's played against a lot of high level competition. So you know, and so is Louis, played on the under 16 team 2 years ago for Taiwan. So they've played against, you know, some of the best players in under 16 in the country. You know what I'm saying? So they've been two excellent additions to, you know, to the program, and kind of help fill in those gaps of the guys that left.
Well, tell me where you're at with the coaching staff. When you came in here, from what I understand, a lot of the assistants who are here departed.
Yes.
How do you fill your staff out, especially given the fact that you're not in a location that might be friendly to some of the people who you know back in the DMV?
No question. Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing I had to do, just because, you know, a lot of the connections I have with a lot of coaches I know all work in the DC area. Right. So, you know, just, you know, they were like, Walt, I love you, but, you know, just getting back and forth to Leonardtown, you know what I'm saying? And like, it just doesn't fit with our schedule. So a lot of guys that I was banking on coming to coach with me, you know, weren't able to, you know, just make it work just because family or job situations. But at the same time, you know, Shalape, that's been with me with the district for a while, and helped with the Bowie High School. He's going to coach with me. He was super important for me, because, you know, he kind of knows, you know, kind of what I look for as far as, you know, X and O's kind of style of play I like to play, and, you know, and then also as far as what he does with media and everything like that, and, you know, how he helps with recruiting and networking and everything like that. He was just he was super important. Cedric Holbrook, that, you know, he was the head coach at Bowie, and I coached with him, has decided to come over here and, you know, be my head JV coach, and he's going to assist with me in varsity, and that was another big piece. You know, we built a relationship, and you know, like I said, the timing of it was crazy. You know, he stepped down at Bowie, and you know, before I even got the RIKEN job, and, you know, once I got the RIKEN job, I said, I know you still want to coach. So, he was somebody that, said that he was willing to come down here and help and work and stuff like that, which helped me because he's another guy that kind of knows my mindset and know what I look for and kind of knows my philosophy as far as coaching. So those are really big additions. Cal Wyrick was helping last year, the assistant with the varsity. So he decided he was going to hang around and coach again. So he's been great. He knows the community very well. He kind of calls himself the ambassador because he knows a lot of the parents and everything like that. So he was good in just kind of building kind of a bridge between some of the guys from last year and this year. And then we got Arthur Flood that was helping volunteer with the JV. He's going to be JV again. So he's hanging around as well, and I probably have one or two more guys that are filling out the staff. So, it's kind of been a work in progress, and with me getting a job late in the summer, I've kind of bounced around different guys, and because of the timing and everything like that, it wasn't able to work out. But I still think I got a staff that's hardworking and dedicated and really here to impact and help these young men.
How do you go about creating a schedule? Obviously, your WCAC games are already kind of solidified, but I know a big part of most WCAC programs are these showcase tournaments, these out-of-town tournaments, et cetera, et cetera.
No question.
How do you handle that?
Well, we lost. Pat already filled most of the schedule in before he moved on. So that was.
And you were able to keep all those games?
Not all of them, but most of the games I was able to keep. We're going to Charleston, South Carolina for a Christmas tournament, which is huge. That was something that Pat already set up. Pat and the AD already set up before the coaching change. So we were able to do that, and then. We're going to play in the showcase at UMBC. We play John Carroll the first game of the season, December 2nd, wow. So we can get to go against Quigley and Montez and them. And so that's going to be a great opportunity for us. That's going to be our first game of the season.
When is that game? Do you know?
December 2nd. And it's a part of a DC Baltimore challenge. Right. WCAC, BCL. So I think McNamara's playing, Mount Carmel. We're playing John Carroll. I think St. John's is playing Mount St. Joe's and Gonzaga's playing St. Francis. So, like I said, that's, for the first game, for the first game of the year, that's going to be something to get your popcorn ready, what I'm saying? But like I said, that's great for our kids, for us to go out there and get to play on under the lights like that, against some of the top talent out of Baltimore. Like, we couldn't be more excited about the opportunity, to kind of showcase what we're about, so. So we had a couple other events that, because of coaching change, people kind of backed out on us. So I had to fill in a couple gaps, but that all comes with the territory of kind of having to prove ourselves and showcase what we're about. So like I said, I think after we showcase what we're capable of this year, I think that I'll have my phone ringing a lot for the future of non-conference games. So I'm not worried about that at all. Yeah.
Well, tell me about the makeup of your roster from a talent perspective. What should we? Obviously, everyone knows Winston Taz will be back, who's, I would think, your best returning player. But tell me about the talent on your roster this year.
Yeah, of course, it starts with Winston because, he's got a chance to be Player of the Year at WCAC. Just, he's been our leader, and he's been consistent, from freshman year in the WCAC. So he's a huge piece. Alperin, we call him Alp. He's a huge addition just because he brings some size. He brings some inside-outside play. 6'8", 215. A lot of college coaches starting to call my phone, and a lot of college coaches coming through, and really been impressed by him. So he's going to be a huge addition. We got some really talented guards. Like I said, Louis Tang from Taiwan, Mike Sumner. D'Angelo Toll transferring back here, he's playing football right now, and Jules McCoy, who's a sophomore. He played JV last year, and he's really had a great summer. Really been in the gym nonstop, and really come along. So I think with added to Winston, we got some of the best guards in the area. So I think that's going to be huge. Another kid, Leland Eccles, that's been here as well. You know, he's kind of been up and down the last 2 years, but I mean, he's one of the best athletes in the WCAC. I mean, he's had numerous highlights, but you know, his versatility, you know, what he can do on the defense and the offensive end. He's shooting the ball really well. You know, he got great length, 6'6", you know, high leaper, and you know, can defend 1 through 5. So you know, he's come along a lot since the summer, since we started with the summer to now. Has really been working, really put a lot of time in, and you know, like I said, I think we have some really talented freshmen as well that you know be able to go and help our JV and varsity program. So you know, I'm excited about this group. I think you know, coming in, I wasn't sure what we were going to have just because of you know we got the job and I heard about all the guys leaving. Yeah. But after getting in the gym with them and really working with them since you know from the summertime to now, man, I've been really impressed, and I really think that you know we got a lot of kids that again are under the radar, but you know got a lot to prove, and you know once those lights come on, I think they're going to you know wake a lot of people up. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that Pat did a remarkable job while he was here, kind of bringing Ryken from, I don't know if obscurity is the right word, but making them very relevant.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was co-WCAC Coach of the Year last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, earned a pretty big-time job in St. John's.
No question.
What do you need to do to continue on that trajectory that Pat kind of helped out with Ryken?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, first and foremost, Pat did an excellent job, you know, kind of building it up year by year. They kept getting better. I mean, like I said, when I came in, you know, I know we lost a couple of people, but, you know, before we lost guys, I knew they had a really talented roster. You know, coming back, if he would have stayed and everybody would have stayed, you know, they had a really talented roster coming into their own. You know, for me, I told the guys, a lot of the players that, you know, Ryken's been good for a while. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of underrated thing. Like, they've got guys like Travion Graham that's played here. You know, they got DK who's at Penn State. You know, they've had guys that have played at high levels. They've had talent. They've been 500.
They've just been overshadowed because there's so many elite
exactly. And like I said, if you're not in the, you know, if they weren't in WCAC and they were in another league, they would be, you know, one of the best in any other league. You know what I'm saying? But because you're going against some of the elite talent WCAC teams, you know, they haven't really been able to get over that hump. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's kind of been the mentality I've said through the workouts and everything like that. You know, we've been good. You know what I'm saying? But now it's time to be great. You know what I'm saying? And that's my trajectory, is trying to get out of the mindset of just being, you know, satisfied with, you know, finishing third or fourth in the WCAC. My goal here is to bring a championship, a WCAC championship down here to Leonardtown, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, for a lot of people, they're like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? You know, you're going against the Mathers and the Paul the Six and the Gonzagas. Like, you know, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? You know, but like I said, if anybody that's known me, you know me, I've always been an overachiever, you know what I'm saying? So in saying that, you know, it's not just something I say, it's something that I truly is working, and that's the goal here, you know what I'm saying? That's the goal, and that's my trajectory, is, you know, to make this program in the same breath, you know, so not that, you know, get out that being satisfied with just being that next tier, you know what I'm saying? I want to be in the same breath as the Paul the Six and the Mathers and the Gonzagas, you know? And, you know, somebody like Glenn Farello, you know, has done a great job at Paul the Six, but before that, Paul the Six wasn't a well-known, you know, program before that, before Farello took it to that level, you know what I'm saying? So, and saying that, you know, it sounds crazy, but until you do it, you know what I'm saying, you know, you got to accomplish the impossible, and right now, that's our goal here. You know.
Gotcha. How have you been received by other coaches in the league, and what kind of relationship do you have? Where do you see yourself fitting in with all the coaches? Good relationship? Do you know them well? Is there a lot to learn about kind of how the fraternity works? Where are you at with that?
Well, I mean, the funny thing about it, you know, coaches like Steve Turner, my first year at Gonzaga as a freshman was Steve Turner's first year coaching at Gonzaga as an assistant coach. So, you know, we would take the Metro back and forth to Glenmont, you know, after leaving Gonzaga. So, you know, he's known me since a kid, you know what I'm saying? The same thing with Mike Jones. They've known me since, you know, I was in high school. So we've had kind of relationships in a different way, since then, and they've watched me kind of grow. And, even when I was at A&T, I've gone back and recruited and, out of there, out of DeMatha, out of Gonzaga, so out of Paul VI with, Coach Ferrello, out of Keith Line, out of McNamara with Lawrence Smith. So, I've known a lot of these guys for quite a number of years, and they've kind of watched me kind of go through different stages. So, I think I got a pretty good relationship with most of the guys in the WCAC. Some of them I don't know as well, but even Pat, I watched him, and before he got to the St. Mary RIKEN job, we've been around and know quite the same few people. So, I got a lot of connections with a lot of these guys in the WCAC. So, they've been, as far as me getting a job, a lot of them have reached out to me and, told me, congrats and everything like that, and welcome me to the league. So, I definitely appreciate all those guys for the ones that reached out and, told me thanks and everything like that. They've kind of gone out their way to kind of welcome me to their fraternity, So, I feel good about that. At the same time, I know, once we get close to that time, that switch going to change. It's not going to be as friendly. Like I said, but they're all coaches. They've been through it. It's all there. I know they're all super competitive. What I'm saying? They all have done, have all across the board at WCAC. All those guys have built programs, and to be in the WCAC, I don't take that lightly. I don't take that for granted because I know, a lot of those guys have put in a lot of years, making their programs to what they are, and they've, had a lot of success, and it's a reason why WCAC is one of the best conferences in the country. It's because of such great coaching across the board. So I'm definitely humbled by being this, getting the opportunity to be here and coach amongst those guys and stuff like that. And definitely just try to make the most of it.
Gotcha. Well, Walt, this about wraps up our time here. It's been awesome getting to know you a little better, coming down here to Ryken, getting a little insight on what you have in store for us this coming season. The last thing I want to do is, I know you've been talking for the last hour, but if there's anything else that you think is important, any message you want to convey to the DMV about this new opportunity you have, the floor is yours.
No, like I said, it's something I've been working towards, but I just really think that this area is some of the best talented across the country, and my thing has always been, for all the guys that coaching as far as AAU or high school, it's been a lot of guys that, that I've been around, I've watched, I've seen that put a lot of time in to help young men, across this area, So, I'm definitely thankful for you coming to, come down here to Ryken and check it out and kind of, give me a chance to talk. But, I really want to kind of showcase that, there's a lot of guys out there that are, kind of behind the scenes that are putting a lot of work that might not be in WCAC pedestal, or might not be on the, sponsorship pedestal that, really put a lot of time and a lot of countless hours to help kids get to the next level, And that's the reason why there is so many talented kids, because we have such great coaching across the board, coaches, trainers, and guys that, just spend a lot of countless hours that I've just seen and watched. And I've definitely taken notice. And, I kind of try to come from that shell of guys that are, don't have the names, but like I said, put the time in and do it for the right reasons, So, like I said, I just thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last thing I want to do, question I ask every coach in this series: if there's a pickup basketball game today with all the coaches, head coaches in the DMV, who would your first pick be?
I guess in my era, a guy that I played with or against is Sean Tracy, from BCC.
Okay.
He was one of those guys that was kind of like an X factor. He would do it whatever it took to win. Really hard, competitive. I think he went to play the Drake. Played the Drake in college. We played against each other and had a few battles when he was at Bullis. Okay. But that was somebody I would pick, definitely go to war with, because I just know the type of heart he has and, the type of competitor he has. I definitely respected that.
Great. Awesome. Well, yeah, we just saw Sean last week, and I'm sure he'll be excited to get his first vote in this question. Well, Walt, thanks again. It's been great catching up with you. We can't wait to see what you have in store in a few weeks.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.